My girl don't lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? Come on, tell me, baby. In the pond, where the sun don't ever shine. I was shivered all night.
How are you doing?
Hello.
Hey, welcome to another exciting episode of the Old Fashioned Hollywood Podcast.
We better start putting these online.
I know.
One day.
Yum.
Tasty. So, yeah, here we are in the year of our Lord, 2017.
Who'd win in a fight? Rick Deckard versus Han Solo.
I don't even have an opinion on that right
That's a
now.
good one. That's a good question.
I just said earlier, I said what, Indiana Jones and Rick Deckard?
Yeah,
Like,
I
no,
told
you're
you.
all caught up on Harrison Ford.
You gotta let the, no, really, you gotta let the Ford stuff go for a minute. Rick Deckard versus Han Solo. Jesus. Versus the guy in Witness.
There's that guy in Witness. It was a one-armed man. Rick Deckard or Han Solo.
Cast your vote.
That's cast your vote. Yeah, I don't know. I have to say probably Han Solo.
Han Solo, probably.
Yeah,
fucking
Han Solo.
Yeah.
We just showed Melinda the Blade Runner movie because we were gonna have her watch the second one and then we were gonna talk about it in this episode, but she hadn't seen the first one.
Right.
Long story short,
The first
here we
one
are.
is incredible, and I can't wait to
It's
see the second
unreal.
one, so.
It's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's
So-
like, it's one of those few movies that, like, is climbing its way toward my favorite movie. Every time I watch it, I'm like, this is a little higher up than it
More
used
and
to be.
more,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really, really good.
Okay, just want to make sure that the microphone is on. Hey.
We're a couple of dorks who
Right.
work in indie filmmaking. I'm financing my next one right now. A small project with this lady over here producing, and I'm badgering him too. I got our second investor today.
Woo!
Tiny amount.
Right.
Small potatoes in the grand scheme, but, you know. it is what it is.
$25.
Yeah, $25. $25
Wrote
bucks.
you a
Yeah.
check for $12.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a bitch. Filmmaking is a bitch, and
It
it's
is.
a battle.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for people who give up easily on anything. I mean, yeah, we're just now at the point of our film, Fifth Passenger's done, and looking for distribution and all that, and it's like 5 years to just get to where we're at. I mean, obviously not all films are going to take that long, but coming from like my first feature as a director, getting legitimate money to make a thing, and
Yeah.
it's
Tell them how much you raised crowdfunding alone.
we raised close to $100,000 on crowdfunding.
Just
and
pretty fucking
yeah,
good, man.
yeah, private investment and everything. But yeah, it's and that's not easy. That's as much pre-production as goes into making a film almost.
Yeah, because everyone tells me, why don't you just crowdfund to get your money? I'm like, okay, well, there's so many fucking reasons that, that's not as easy as you just made it
I
sound.
didn't realize it was like a full-time job.
That's what
I
I
would've
say,
thought
yeah,
too,
like,
but
you gotta-
I had no
I mean,
idea.
Yeah.
Is it an option? Yeah. And then another thing is, I've spoken to talents who aren't interested if there was crowdfunding involved
Really?
with your film. Yeah.
Huh.
I'm not gonna name names, obviously, but
Right.
Why?
just me, really.
No.
No, I don't know. I don't know if it's just something. I don't know. Is it a stigma? I don't know.
Well, I
understand
know.
it.
I can see where there might be some actors who don't want to lend their name to a project that is going to be crowdfunded. Like if you've already raised, if you've already raised the money on crowdfunding, and say, hey, we've already got the money, we'd like to have you attached. I think that's a different story than a lot. Like what we did with ours, we had Star Trek actors in our film, and
Right.
we used their name to fund the film, and so without having the Star Trek actors attached, I don't think we would have raised
Hold on, one
nearly
of the
enough.
biggest, most passionate fan bases in the world.
Right, and I think that's a thing where an actor might be hesitant to lend their name to something if they're like, oh, well, you're just going to use my name to go out there and raise money, and then somebody else is going to want to use my name to go out there and raise money, and then somebody else is going to,
yeah.
so they
Yeah.
kind of feel like they're getting diluted as an actor because they're associated with people who because there is this kind of feeling that like it's crowdfunding, but some people call it like cyber begging, or there's all these different
that makes it feel like shit.
Right. But those are the people who are like, oh, I need, anyone want to give me $700 to, help me fix the transmission in my car? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with doing that either. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I think
Yeah,
I
that
think
is cyber
that's
begging.
that's a different. I think that's a different.
Yeah.
a feel where like a film is
Yeah.
like, okay, well, everybody's pitching in because they want to help this film happen, and then they get to see the film afterwards and be a part of it.
Right.
And you get a DVD. It's not like, oh, give me $700 to help fix my transmission, and then I'll give you a ride to the supermarket.
I'll tell you one thing. A conversation we were just having on the way here is Melinda's at that point. This is her first time producing on a film, and nobody likes talking to investors about getting money. And if they like it, I might not like them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it is such a part of the process that's embarrassing, scary, awkward, uncomfortable. Yeah. You're judging yourself.
Yeah.
Like, at least at the beginning, I hear how you're talking, and like, dude, you felt like, I remember, I was telling her on the way here, I beat myself up so hard because I just felt like some sketchy kind of like, say that, folks, want to look over here? And you know what I mean? Give me your money. And it's like, it was actually the investors themselves. Some who have invested and some who I was just talking to. A really big investor actually who I'm talking to was like, look, dude, stop making apologies.
Right.
This is part of it. Like, you're chasing your dreams, man. You know what I mean? Stop talking like, it's like, don't apologize for what you're doing. If you believe in it, then you believe in it. And you need to stop acting like, you just feel like guilt. Like there's a guilt.
It is because you don't want, like the guy we were talking about, I have a buddy who has a decent amount of money, and I didn't realize that when I came into this, that's what, when you said talking to investors, I didn't realize those were the investors, people that we knew. And
well, so that's some of them. They're not all, it's not all like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And in one way, if I thought that I was going to seriously offend someone by asking them that, then I would never damage a relationship.
Oh, you have to choose carefully.
Just because of
that. It's not all just personal relationships.
No, and that's the thing. It's like I would almost be more comfortable talking to somebody that I didn't know.
Yeah.
That, approaching them about it rather than someone I have a history with, especially someone like the buddy that I was telling you about, where everybody comes out of the woodwork when you get money, and everybody wants something.
Yeah, and that's a weird feeling I have when I go to people, big money
you know?
people who I know professionally, and I'm like, you know what I mean? You got to do it, and it's such an interesting thing.
Well, I think if like whoever you were talking to said it, if you really believe in what you're doing, and you believe that I can make this movie and this movie can make its money back, then there's no reason to to be sorry about it or to feel weird about it, because you're providing them with something. That's the whole point. I mean,
I'll tell you what my one friend said, who's interested too, is he's like, listen. This is how you talk to people. And this is somebody who's interested in helping us make this, too, financially. He's like, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to make it one way or another. I'm not giving up on this stuff. I've done a good job already. I'm going to do an even better job in the future. This guy, when I talk to this old friend of mine, it made me feel a million times better. And it kind of relit the fire a little bit. And I was like, yeah, dude, why am I so fucking uncomfortable? He's like, can I promise you you're going to get your money back? No, but I promise you I'll do everything in my power to get it back. He's like, but more importantly, I'm never going to quit on this. It's something I'm asking you to be involved with. You don't have to, but, this is your chance to be a part of something. And I was like, when he said it that way, and he was a person talking about investing, I was like, it made it sound so much more pure, and I was so much less cynical suddenly. And I was like, yeah, that's that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, is it a risk? Yeah, it's a fucking risk.
Received well enough that people do want to watch it, and that you can make money back for the
investors. That's almost, there's so much more to it than that,
thing,
as you know.
Yeah.
Right,
But the thing
there's
too
so
is I don't want to go into it with the idea of, I'm not here to make a shitload of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
right.
Would it be cool? Well, yeah, and it would be cooler just because we're making something that people really enjoy.
Yeah, it's about the script being, especially when the script, well, obviously they already believe in us as artists. But when it's a script or a theme that they believe in too, then that's another enticing thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
that has to be like the thing where they say to themselves, well, even if I don't get my money back, did I contribute to something that I can be happy to say, okay, I contributed X amount of dollars and I only got like a quarter of that back, but we got to make this film, and any investment, like the investor has to look at that worst case scenario and say, worst case scenario, I don't get a single penny back for my investment because it's not a loan.
There's risk.
Yeah. It's
and how many horror stories are there too with us artists making that film, stars in your eyes. You're like, okay, this is like, I've done a good job. I've got these people involved. This is going to be a home run. Like, I've done everything I can to make this go well, and then you get fucked. And as that is like, I would say that's probably 99 out of 100 filmmakers, at least that I've talked to.
Well, at least on their first film.
On their first big thing, they get they get crushed.
Yeah, and that's where we're at with The Passenger, is trying to find a distributor or an agent or an outlet for the film that's not going to fuck us over and that's going to, you know, again, like Melissa said, you know, we're not looking to be millionaires off of this film, but we have investors. We want to pay them back. We want to break even on the film.
And you learn to protect yourself after that.
Yeah,
like
and
anything else,
but you have to learn
make money, but you're not in it just for that. That's why I like doing this stuff so much, because like I don't need to be rich. I don't care about that. But like, yeah, you do have to be able to pay your bills. You know what I mean? But if you're satisfied at the end of the day with it, then it's like that's the main thing. And if you break even, sweet.
What was the most surreal moment for you on set of Fifth Passenger as a fan of any of these people you might have been working with, or as an artist, whatever? What was the moment where you were like, man, this is fucking awesome?
I think working with Marina Sirtis, she was Counselor Deanna Troy in Next Generation, and I remember watching her when I was in
dark hair,
junior high school. And she was. I mean, you know,
she was hot.
Yeah, she was hot. All the
her when I was a kid.
Yeah, all the nerdy kids liked her because they were watching Star Trek and so when she was on set, it was cool to have her on set, and it was a bit, you know, it was a bit surreal to be there and to be working with her and to be directing her in a scene, you know, several scenes, but like when she first showed up and stuff like that, we had. We were just moving at a rapid pace just to get everything done, and you know, costumes were being made as people were coming in and everything like that, and she gets in and she tries her costume on, and it's a little snug in some areas and quite fit, and so you know, get back to the costumer so the costumer can make the little changes on it and stuff like that. But she comes to me and she said, like, darling, next time.
Darling.
Yeah. So she says, next time, have your actresses come in ahead of time for a fitting. And though it was like, I would have loved to be able. Everything was just moving so fast, and we had so many costumes to get made, and it was just like, man, we were just like, I felt we were lucky just to have everything come together. I mean, there were times when we were shooting where like Manu's in a spacesuit, and we didn't have the whole spacesuit. So we were just shooting his close-ups, where it's just like you know, chest ups, because he's
forced to make the movie you made. Basically,
right? He's got like the top half of his costume finished, you know, and it wasn't anything to do with Debbie, who did our costume. She did a great job. We had so much for her to do, and there wasn't a lot of time for everything to get done.
We had little Marty Kleba and Brandywine, the little person for Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. You guys know he is. The people there, little bald guy, and. I decided at the last minute, I don't know why I decided this, maybe my hand was forced, but I don't think it was. I decided as we're filming his second to last scene, that the window from which he'll be pushed in the last scene we're filming before he goes home, that room, that apartment we have doesn't quite look right. It doesn't look Brandywine-ish, like everything looks dirty, magical city kind of. And I think I send Kyle and somebody else out to go find another place while I'm still filming this scene as we're moving toward it. So they find an apartment above the Kent stage, and we get there and it looked fucking amazing, but it was like, they had like an hour and a half, 2 hours to find the next location. And then we got there and I walked in and I looked, I was like, okay, we got this. This is yeah, it fucking works. It's totally great, but it's like scary. He was cool though. He was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what moments I've had and stuff. I don't know what it would be. I'll just pick one from like actual production.
Working with the wrestlers.
Yeah.
UDP.
Yeah, but my favorite, honestly, and it's not even like a celebrity moment or anything. It was looking at Camp Miracle as a finished script after being produced with Court 5 and all of them, and I read it through and I was like, this is like, I felt like this could be like fucking like really special. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like it was at a level I hadn't thought myself capable of, and then I read it back and I was like, this could fucking really land. Like, you know, and that's something that like took a lot of time, a lot of help from other people, a lot of learning and stuff. That was one of them. Just straight up working with people. I think one funny moment, it's not a set story, but was being on the phone with Diamond Dallas Page's assistant and having to work out his W-2 forms because I'm paying him, and I'm like, fucking my dad, if he was alive, seeing I'm fucking sending Diamond Dallas Page his fucking tax paperwork. I was like, what the fuck am I doing right now? Yeah. It was awesome. It was really cool.
Dude, that might be a good segue into like the experience thing, you know? How I'm doing a great job of doing the segue, actually.
No, you're terrible.
Take 2 on the
I
segue.
know. God damn it.
Speaking of segue, Nancy stares at us. What? Scott, let's just keep talking.
Crossfade.
Yeah.
Well, I tried.
Every time she starts talking, it fades out into another scene. You know, I was, and you go, and that's why. But anyway, I'm the passenger.
God damn it.
Uh-huh.
Getting experience, not being quite that young person anymore, and realizing that you have, talking to friends and being like, well, it should be this way, or like, this is what I've learned, but realizing still that you don't have the kind of experience that people 20 years older than you have.
With film or in life? What
In
do you
general.
Well, yeah, we were talking on the way here about, I guess the best way to articulate.
Segue in the world.
We were talking about, yeah, what
God
the
damn it.
fuck?
No, for next time.
I don't know. She killed it for me.
Good.
No, we were talking on the way here
It's a long
about
fucking day.
how would you articulate it? I guess the best way, as I was asking,
Not like
was
I did.
at what point, whether it's an age, I think it's more likely a lesson learned or a moment, more a series of moments that builds it. But is there a time in your life when you realized, and of course we're always still learning, and we're not old, 41, 35, 33, but there's a time in your life when you realized you weren't that dumb young fool anymore?
Yeah.
Is there one?
Well, it was funny because it was several years ago. I was at a party, and there was a couple younger kids in their early 20s, and we were smoking some weed and just talking.
That was last night, wasn't it?
And they asked me how old I was, and I was like 37, 38 or something like that. And they're like, whoa. And they're like, you want to like give us some like wisdom or something?
Yeah,
it's
like
Like
you
you're
know,
1,000.
yeah, it's like
yeah,
it's
that's
like
how a dumb young person
right.
sees shit.
I know.
dude.
Well, I remember. I mean, when I was in my
I
early
remember too.
20s, 37 seemed so fucking old, and it was like it's like we're talking. It's like you're talking to the future. We were smoking weed and everything like that, but.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was like one moment I was like, oh yeah, I'm not fucking in my early 20s anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like I have like a little bit of wisdom on things, but I mean, I think it's all kind of tempered about what you're talking about, like wisdom as far as like the big questions, like what is life and what does it all mean kind of stuff, or if you're just like just like the nuts and bolts of like.
Well, I'll tell you, what I had kind of reached conclusion was as a young person, and that's a loose term because people grow up at different ages. Especially a privileged young person, because if you're working in the fields in South America growing up, you're not going to have these same luxuries we do about your priorities and stuff. But I think there's an age, especially in America here, where as a young person you're obsessed. Your obsession is me. Who am I? I must find myself. I must stay true to myself. I must be around people who are going to help me grow and da-da-da. And there's so much me in there. Yeah. And I was saying that I think with time you learn that yes, that shit's important, but that you should file that away with maybe that's like one of maybe 10 or 15 other fucking things that are equally important. You know what I mean? Like life, kind of seeing beyond just that whole thing. To me, like, because I remember seeing things that way, and now when I see a 20-something doing that shit, I just want to like, shut up. Like I was telling Melinda, I think it's when life starts taking things away, and the whole thing starts feeling kind of finite. It's not going to go forever. Maybe there's more to it than that kind of stuff. Does that sound too vague, or does that make sense what I'm talking about right now? Yeah,
it makes sense. I think there is the thing about possibly being in America, because we are a very individualistic culture. That drives a lot of it. Is like this idea of like personal freedom and personal responsibility, and the sort of conservative mindset, and even more so the in what's it not the independent party, but the
Libertarian?
Yeah, that's it. Libertarian. That like, yeah, you are all responsible, and the government and society has no role in our lives, and that everything just gets worked out.
That's
by
actually a good mirror to it, because that's more political, but it is kind of that thing.
Right. Yeah. It's that idea that the system works when every person is selfish. The Ayn Randian sort of, if everybody is selfish and strives for their own personal best interest, then that means that as a whole, I think that's bullshit. But that's the theory of it, and I think that plays out in our society, in our culture. The me, and like I've got to be the best person that I can be, and achieve this and achieve that.
If only I had this. You know what I mean? Like always setting out that next like journey. I need this for me. Yeah, I need this for me.
Well, and even the Libertarian Party, I think, is I don't know. I mean, I'm libertarian on a decent amount of stuff, I feel like, but it's not because it's like this, me type deal. It's just because I don't see the point in having this thing run shit that has not classically been very good at it. You know what I mean? They kind of suck at it. It's like, yeah, do we need shit like roads? For sure. All right, let's do that. But everything that we don't need that for, we're all pretty capable of it. You know what I mean? I think it would be easier with like a smaller society size because when you have millions and millions and millions of people.
You're talking
all
about
on
just
top
regulation
of each other.
and stuff.
Yeah, but but with personal experience too, it's just like you realize like, yeah, there has to be some of that me, but it's a small chunk of what's in. And sometimes in certain cases in your life, you're gonna need to do that more than others.
Sometimes, yeah, you got to turn it up a little bit.
But those other things should never be just lost.
But isn't part of youth kind of just being like almost like drowning in that little point of view a little bit?
Yeah, but then
before you've learned to like.
But how could you ever, until you've been a dick to someone? How could you possibly
know
not to do that again? You know, because someone can be a dick to you, and you're like, I don't want to be like that guy. But on the other side, it's different. You know, everybody's been a dick to somebody. You know, but it's like you got to get that lesson first.
Yeah, you got to learn why.
Some people milk the shit out of it, but
it is. Yeah, one thing we talk about too is like trying to talk to our 20-something friends, teach you something wise, man. There's no fucking point, dude. There's no point. It's just gonna be fucking words to you that you'll either ignore or you'll go, wow, yeah, that really makes sense, and you'll still fucking ignore. Like you won't even know what I'm talking about till you get there.
Exactly, and the latter is terrible because it's like even if they want so badly, even if they're like, dude, it does make sense, and they want to understand and put it into action. Sometimes they're incapable, and it's not because they're not smart. It's because they just don't have the experience.
Like as we also were, you know.
Right.
It seems like, dude, can't you just see the 2 + 2 = 4? It's like, dude, it took me 12 years to see the 2 + 2 = 4.
As we still are in a lot of ways, and I think that's what we're especially talking because it's just like you don't know. There's no cutoff point when you're like, I have a moment. I'm full. All the knowledge I need is in there.
I had one moment. Forgot about this. I was probably 16 or 17 years old. And this wasn't any kind of real enlightenment, but it was the first. Oh fuck! What if I'm wrong? I grew up. My stepfather and my mom raising us. Very Leave It to Beaver, great life, but stepdad on our asses, like just up our ass, hard on us. Now that I get older, one, it's because he's grumpy as hell, but two, it's because it was the counter to the influence our father was having on us, who would pick us up every other weekend, and that was. We loved our dad. I still love my dad to death. But man, if you followed his lead on stuff, you were going to go over a cliff at some point. So stepdad up our asses. You'll see when you're older. You'll see when you're older. And of course, do we agree with all of our parents as we get older? No, not on everything. Sometimes I grew up and I was like, I still think you're wrong. But I remember having a moment. I was using their bathroom, showering for some reason. Usually we had our own, us three boys. And my stepdad comes in, and it's one of those glass doors that you can kind of see somebody's in there, but you can't see anything. It's all blurry. And I see him come in, I hear him, he's just grabbing something, and I'm in the shower, and I probably got mad at him or something or whatever, I'm staring. And I remember, I think it's near graduation, and I remember him leaving, and I don't know why, it came into my head, what if he's right? And I literally thought that in that moment, I'll never forget it. He walked out, and I was alone, and I was like, what if he's right, and I'll learn that he's right.
Oh, shit.
And it's like, that moment alone was like, oh my fucking God, dude. And I was like, going like, whoa, what if
you get that thing in the pit of your stomach and you're like,
you never even fucking considered it. You're just emotionally fought. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget that moment. But
it's crazy because that moment made you such a different and better person.
You keep having that moment in a way.
Exactly, because you're like, oh, dude, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to think I know everything when I damn sure know I don't. You know, so.
Yeah, I made a promise to myself not to, and you do have to fight it. You have to fight it off sometimes. Not to get to a point where I think young people are wrong about everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or not to get to a point where I reject all change. Mm-hmm. Or I think because I'm familiar with something, the unfamiliar is bad. As we were talking about, actually this is a perfect tie-in because we were talking about how the current complaint about our generation or younger is, they have no respect for anything. Mm-hmm. They have no morals. They don't care about anything. But then the other complaint is, they're so overprotective. You can't say the N-word. You can't make fun of Jews. You can't say retarded. They're snowflakes.
Right.
And it's like, those are two completely contradicting complaints. But as he pointed out,
the same thing.
What are they tied to? We don't like change. We don't like changing the old bad things. We don't like changing the old good things. Mm-hmm. We don't like change in general. And that's something I try really hard not to do.
That's a fucking segue.
That's a segue.
That's a segue right there.
Yeah. That's how
But it's difficult because the whole point is that most of the time, I think, especially the older you get, maybe not especially the older you get, but I do think most of the time when you're disregarding something or pushing out an idea, you really don't realize that you're not seeing the other side.
No.
A lot of the time, I think you really, not general you, like I think people
mean?
really think I think you're dog shit. Trying to, but they're really not. It's like they are, but they're missing a key component, or they think they are, but they're just. It's like glossing over.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
almost there
like
sometimes, but not
a page in a book. You know what I mean? You're just like going over it, but you're not really reading it.
It's like when you're young, someone they're like, "I know," and it's like you can keep yelling that.
Yeah.
But if you knew, you wouldn't be using that tone. Or you know what I mean? You'd go, "Oh, it's."
Well, I think there's with the whole conservative mindset and older generations, it's
not even politically conservative.
Right? Yeah, just a general sense of that, and I mean, I think it spills over into the political sphere, but I think a lot of that is this idea that you're 50 or 60 or even 40 years old. It's like, man, I just spent 40 years on this earth figuring out how shit goes and figuring out what my place is and all this, and now you're saying it's going to change. Like no,
terrifying.
I just figured it out. Like I just figured out how to survive, or
who are these young fucking punks with their internet and their cell phones to come along and tell me this thing my great grandpa and my great grandpa and my grandpa and my dad all told me was true and never let anybody tell you otherwise. Who are they to come along and say, ha, no it isn't, dummy, get with the times, whether it's a social issue or a belief, whatever the fuck.
And I think we're also living in a world where there is so much more change because of technology has driven social change faster than in past generations. I mean,
Arab Spring.
All this stuff. I mean, like gay rights and the end of slavery and segregation and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
which she's still pissed about.
Right. I mean, we just got rid of slavery 150 years ago.
Why do we have to pay him? Is all I'm saying.
Jesus. That's something she shouldn't joke about. We're sorry. I'm sorry.
And for that, we're sorry.
And in a way, I haven't called that. I am sorry. But in a way, there is, if you're a kid, if you're 7 years old and someone breaks your toy, that's the biggest thing that's happening in your life at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in a way, there's value to like millennials or younger people or whatever. Things are like a big deal to them. It's not that it's not, but it just might be in their
Well, I'll tell you a funny
universe,
thing about that.
You know what I mean?
My ex-girlfriend's cousin is a gym teacher, and he has to have talks with these really emotional fucking high school kids or whatever, middle school, high school, whatever they are. And like, they think it's the end of the world because of a breakup or because of a bad test. And he goes, and they're just like beside themselves about things that like we can laugh about now. But he told me, I was like, so how do you handle that? Because like you can't talk down to them and say this doesn't matter.
Be like, the thing you're worried about is fucking dumb.
This doesn't matter, and you'll see that later. That's not going to sink in. And he was like, I see it this way. He's like, is it dumb? Yes. He's like, but pain is pain.
Yeah.
And I always thought that stayed with me. Pain is pain.
That's
the kid's toy, the high school couple breakup. I remember crying when I'm like 17 years old, 18 years old when Tina and I broke up, and like crying like I was fucking doomed, like my life was ruined, and I'm like, dude, you don't know anything about your life. It hasn't even started yet, man. Yeah.
That's why it sucks. All you can
My
really
dad
say is like,
me,
it's gonna get better.
It's gonna get better. That's the worst platitude to say to somebody. Oh, it gets better.
Nobody wants to hear it. It just takes time because
Yeah.
you're like, one more fucking person tells me that. I'm
You have to just
someone,
remember it
dude,
yourself.
But it's true,
Yeah, every time I've ever been down. Well, you know what? I think we've talked about this before with breakups and hardship and deaths and stuff you go through. Melinda always liked the analogy I said with breakups, but like once you've been shot, everything else, it won't hurt you the same after that. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like you develop a toughness where as you get older, this is another part of wisdom of getting older, is you do remember how resilient you are. Mm. And you start to like right now, I've gone through a breakup recently. Did it hurt? Yeah. But But
you've come out the other side before and been fine.
Yeah, so I've come out way harder ones.
Right.
Way more, not just breakups, but way harder things, way more trying things, way more terrifying things, and this was like, it sucked, but, it wasn't, I didn't lose 10 years of my life, I didn't, you know what I mean, like, and I wouldn't have been able to see that if I was going through this at 21.
Right. I think
it would have been.
Yeah, I've gone through several like breakups and stuff like that too, and for me the worry is not that I'm gonna not get through it, but that I'm building up the scar tissue
too much,
and that
Same.
I'm just gonna like next time I'm just not gonna care as much as I did last time.
You ride that line between being tough and being jaded,
right,
and being cynical, and
at some point there's always that like, well, if I'm not gonna just do it, then what's the point? You know what I mean? That's what I get to. I think, and I don't have like a lot of experience to go on, but it's just like you're scared, but at what point is it just like, does it not do, or not even scared, but it's like it doesn't do any good not to be all in but then you run the risk of.
Well, I'll tell you what I've learned, and this is on the relationship thing mostly. I guess we could be talking about anything, but on relationships exactly. It's like I've been through breakups, and I can look back on old relationships, and they didn't all fail. A lot of them didn't fail because, we fucked it up. It was more like, Larry was moving or this happened here, and it's like I didn't lose faith in relationships because I can think of some girls from my life with whom I'm almost positive it could have worked. And it's like, you never really know. You could be like, well, you don't know that. But it's like, they all had similar qualities and similar qualities to me. And I knew that, does it make sense? So I learned like, not every breakup means like, it's never going to work. It's more like, no, it would have with this person. Mm-hmm. We both, she had the wisdom I've learned to, and we both knew to just take care of the other one and stop being a brat.
It's not that it's an impossible thing, it's just the circumstance.
Yeah, and the circumstance, right, exactly. I think, you look for those one or two traits in somebody that you're like, it could work. If it could work with anybody, it could work with this person. You know what I mean?
And that's the question, right? I mean, it's like, could it work with anybody? I mean, obviously, there are like people out there who have relationships for like 50 years, but is that more like the exception to the rule than not? Like this idea that like, we are a monogamous species that is supposed to find our soulmate or whatever you want to talk about. Find that one. There's that one out there, and when you find that one person, you two are going to be together until you die, and that's a thing that can happen. Or is it, for most people, is it you have relationships that last 8 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, this like different time intervals depending on who this person is and where you're at in your life. And sometimes you can have a relationship with somebody, nobody's cheating on anybody else, it just doesn't work out. It's like, man, we're clashing on this thing, we can't agree on the same thing, we want different things.
I'll tell you what my mom's siblings said. My mom was abused by my dad, so she never advised us. She should have stayed with him. It was nothing like that.
Right.
But her sisters and stuff, and her aunts and uncles, they definitely, I watched them go through periods where they would say the magic was gone. Right. But they stayed together, and they always, I remember them saying, it comes back. Like, and then you're not, like, it's never, it's not, they would always say, my aunts would say, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble here, but my aunts would say, like, you fall in and out of love. Yeah. And I actually, being young and probably being wrong, I don't think it's really true. I think you just think you're out of love. Like, I was always like, I bet if he died right now, you wouldn't be like, well, I'm not in love with him right now. You know what I mean? You'd be like, I fucking loved him to death. What am I talking about? I feel like it's just that shine where it dulls, then it shines up again, then it dulls, then it shines up again. Yeah. But I do think you can be rewarded by hanging on, hanging in there, if that makes sense. Yeah. Not to sound like a fucking total...
No, absolutely. I think it makes sense.
I was going to say slut, but I don't want to be... I don't want to say retard.
Oh, God.
List of words that you're allowed to use.
Yeah. Right. So like a bossy, like a really bossy...
I think that's why I love so much stuff like Carlin's 7 words, or like Louis C.K.'s like the words you can't say on TV or whatever. It's just like, those things are fascinating because of exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I was actually going to say pussy, and I thought that might offend people, so I joked.
That will definitely
the thing that kills
people.
Me is that when I say pussy or cunt,
She says these words more than either of us do.
Probably.
It's the Midwest.
I usually get yelled at by chicks more than anybody.
Absolutely, same. Right. I don't get yelled at by guys for that shit. It's by girls, dude.
Yeah.
But then there's nothing. I mean, I don't think there's anything like cunt or you know what I mean. Or and pussy has like a generally like weak sort of connotation or whatever.
You call yours your hatchet word.
I don't call mine that all the time. Although I mean, they all look like that. They do. They look like
it started to heal.
It just looks.
But it won't close up.
It just looks like shit. I don't know. I don't understand. I've never seen one and gone, that's attractive.
I've never seen one,
Never fucking once have I ever seen a vagina and thought.
Have the lights off?
Yeah.
Tell me when it's over. No. Yeah.
Ooh.
What else we got?
What's on the
Come
docket?
on, transition lady. What's your favorite kind of dog?
What's your favorite color?
She goes, I think this makes a good transition, and just stares at us blankly for fucking 3 minutes straight.
Yeah, maybe this should not be my job.
Fuck. She has a laptop on her. I think it's been powered off for fucking 6 weeks. She goes, it says here that
she's looking at her own reflection.
It's an apple.
it's a grocery list, just post-it note on it.
We have gun
It says get a
control
job.
And me too. Yeah.
Get
To
a
do,
job.
Get a job.
Good job. Anything to get off this podcast.
What else? Yeah.
Exactly.
What else are we talking about for real?
Gun control, Me Too.
Well, the Me Too hashtag's an easy lead-in.
I honestly think we've kind of covered most, although I think it's been about 45 minutes already. So
That's all right.
But yeah.
I mean the Me Too thing. I don't know what. I mean, we talked about the.
I have an interesting spin on it because
Okay.
we did talk about this shit all the time. As a guy, have you ever been uncomfortably sexually harassed or sexually assaulted?
By a guy or a girl or
Anybody.
anybody.
Not me though. Don't. If it's me, don't say anything.
Redress like a slut.
Anytime I did anything to you, just leave it out.
I've been in now 3 different situations.
It's tense. You get real tense on this one.
Yeah. I've been. I was.
Come over here and tell me that.
No. See, this is where I think it's like I think it can be a gray area, but I don't know. I mean, like I used to wait tables, and like I waited on these elderly women who liked that I was waiting on them, and they never overtly sexually harassed me where I felt like I wasn't comfortable going back to the table or anything like that, but they made sexual jokes about me when I came to the table and took their order and interacted with them and stuff like that.
Boys will be boys, ladies will be ladies. It is honestly, but both sexes do this shit.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but like as a 22-year-old guy, it was like in coming from older ladies, they were like in their 60s or whatever. It felt like
there's no power dynamic. There's no power dynamic at all.
Well, there was the slight power dynamic because they were customers and I was the waiter. That was the slight power dynamic there. But it wasn't where like I felt threatened, like they didn't grab my ass or.
You don't want to be a dick because you don't want to get stiffed.
Yeah, there's that too, right? Yeah, so it's like okay, I got to be nice and kind of play along with their thing, So I mean that's pretty
so you're
much
encouraging it.
That's pretty much the closest that I would say that I've had any kind of
I've had
experience like that. Yeah,
absolutely. I've had teachers grabbing my ass, smacking my ass. Yeah, ladies. Oh yeah, coming up behind me, rubbing my shoulders, like I was joking with you, but really doing that stuff. I had a girl. I feel weird talking about it, but I definitely I don't feel weird like emotionally weird. I feel like we're not gonna get in trouble, but yeah, I've had girls who. Okay, I'll tell a couple things. I've had girls who wouldn't take no for an answer.
I've had that, yeah.
Absolutely would not take for an answer, and I've said, this happened with multiple girls. I said, like, if I did this in reverse, you could totally cry rape. You could say he wouldn't, and I'm like, you're just, like, it's been something that's happened with quite a few girls, so I'm like, they don't stop. Or they say no, and you stop, and then they pull you back in because that's their game, and I hate that. Freaks me out, dude. Like because we're taught no means no, damn it. You know what I mean?
Right,
and like
right,
I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're like, no, stop.
Then
they pull your hand away, and I'm like, I wasn't doing it that time, and you stop, like, oh, and they pull you back over again. Like I'm like, dude, that shit fucked with me. Not like I was scarred, but I was like, I didn't know. Yeah, you don't even know how to behave anymore. You know what I mean? You're like, what the fuck is some of this stuff? But I've totally had. I've totally had things happen that, like, I was like, I said no 100 times. And I guess one thing, like you said, is you don't, maybe you write it off a little bit. Because I never felt physically threatened. Never felt like I couldn't just physically fucking pick the person up and put them over here if I needed to. You know what I mean? There's no, I didn't feel like I had to do it or I'd lose my job or I had to do it or, you know what I mean? Or, it's strange. It's strange how it works that way. You don't treat dudes like that, I'm sure.
No,
we talked about it a little bit.
And two, I was thinking, I've never, I hope not, but I don't think I'm like that aggressive when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Alcohol helps a ton of that shit. Man.
Well, alcohol can make you, although that's why I'm saying like I did a lot of drinking in my 20s, so I might not remember stuff. But
You
like
did a lot of drinking in your now, dude.
in my last week, no.
Your present.
A lot of
But I
drinking
mean,
in
it's
mine
different.
today.
Like I was thinking when you guys were saying that, I've slept with 3 dudes, but I've never felt threatened by any of them. You know what I mean? There were guys, like, if I'm out with a guy or something, then there are a couple times where I've been like, I should probably get out of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That it's bordering on that. But
Yeah.
and even at work, I've absolutely thought I could lose my job before if I wasn't, I've been grabbed, I've been everything, dude. Everything under the sun, by bosses, by customers, by... When you work in restaurants and bars and you're a chick, I think it's just like part of the thing,
So obviously, there's a rape culture thing. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
It's also just...
No, but I mean
you
against women is what I was talking about.
Well, but it's also, if you have an environment, if you work at a bar and everybody that works there is drinking, it might as well be a house party to some extent.
You know what's scary about what she's
I mean?
saying? Because I agree with you, but
Not
here's
that it's right.
No, yeah, but here's the tricky thing. If a girl gets raped, and people say, well, how was she dressed, or you were asking for it, or you shouldn't have gone down that street, people say you're blaming the victim. Stop it. And I agree. It's never the victim's fault but absolutely this. Forget rape. Let's just talk about murder. There are alleyways I could walk down where my chances of getting hurt would go up a lot. And if I were to walk down one and something happened, and I just happened to survive, and somebody said, man, and my dad, if I'm 14, goes, I fucking told you don't go down that alleyway. I'd never be like, you're blaming the victim. You know what I mean? It would be like...
Right, yeah.
Well, no, but there are... I'm only saying is I'm not blaming victims at all, but I am saying there is decision... There are, I'm afraid of what I'm saying because I don't want it to ever sound like these people doing these terrible things. I'm giving them no free passes.
Right.
A rapist, a sexual harasser, a mugger, they're pieces of shit. Like, they're crossing the line. But we do have to learn to judge situations, and, to pretend that has nothing to do with anything is not always
But, I mean, if
fair.
I was you and I got my ass kicked going down that alley and my dad was like, I fucking told you not to do that, part of me would go, I just got my ass kicked. Chill out for a minute.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean?
Right,
but
right,
also, I've never been in a position before, like, the bars and stuff I worked at, the one bar I worked at where one of the owners, was really insane and super inappropriate one night. I walked out and I was like, fuck you, whatever. He called me the next day. I talked to him. He was like, that will never happen again. I'm really sorry, blah,
what
blah.
a terrible fucking thing.
And honestly, it never did. But I've never been in the position where I needed that fucking job so bad.
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? Or
yeah.
like, that was the only alley to walk down and I literally didn't have an
That's
option.
what it is. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah, I get
Because
that.
I see what you mean. It's like, if you have the choice, well then yeah, get the fuck out
Because
of
you
that
do have to
situation.
use good
Because
judgment in
At
life.
the time, I mean, I had 2 jobs. I've almost always had more than one job. So but at that time, it was just like, it doesn't matter. I got the restaurant. I can find another fucking bartending gig
Right.
whenever I want, or it doesn't make a difference.
Well, in my
to me,
20s,
you
I
know,
would
but-
always go out drinking with my buddies and getting wasted. But certain friends of ours were always getting in fights that the other guy started. And we go, where the fuck are you going? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get in fights every night. Nobody's walking up to me, tapping me on the shoulder, saying, fuck you, Like,
Right.
where are you going?
Yeah,
to
yeah,
fucking,
yeah.
like, you know what areas this happens in,
Right. Well, and also, I mean, I'm sure a lot of that kind of stuff.
They're not innocent.
That kind of stuff is like, oh, a dude accidentally spilled his beer on me, so I shoved him across the room, and then he punched me. He totally started the fight by punching me.
Yeah, or
it's
something
like,
like that. Yeah,
like how is the story being reframed and told? But I mean, that's not the same.
But on the flip side of everything we're talking about, I absolutely know people who will say a girl is bringing it on to herself because she's wearing a low-cut dress, or she's, of course, like guys have a right to fondle, or what'd you expect? I almost agree with the what'd you expect because I don't trust human beings. So I do agree with what'd you expect because I don't trust the crowd. Nobody should.
I don't think you should ever expect something for wearing. I don't think you should ever expect. Well, in a way, you understand sort of that it's not. If you're wearing a head to toe, if I'm wearing a pantsuit, I'm going to expect different reactions from people than if I'm wearing a G-string or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's never your fault either way.
Exactly.
Right,
and it doesn't
right.
excuse what happens.
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to expect different looks or, or whatever. Anybody would.
Yeah, well, you walk down the street with a Rolex and a big wad of money.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got robbed? What? Like, are you blaming? It's not my fault I got robbed.
Yeah, if you're holding it in your hand running down the street like this.
Yeah, and not to say that in any way is comparable to a girl wearing a low-cut dress. That's not the point.
No, but the point is that such certain actions.
Yeah, is there a line like on the extremes of there somewhere?
What a strange topic, because like you feel so wobbly. Like we talk about it too much in one way, and I'm like, I feel bad because I feel like but then like you have to talk about these realities.
The line is the action.
Right.
It really is. Even if a girl is dressed in a fucking bathing suit and she walks down fucking Hollywood,
she should have that right.
She should
100%.
If you don't expect to get catcalls and whatever, then you're being unrealistic.
You're living in a
you
fake
should
reality.
never expect to be raped, though. The
Right.
action,
I agree,
or whatever,
100%.
harassment.
Right,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? That's where the line is drawn. So it's
To be totally honest, though.
And it hurts the other side when you say things like, you can't, I shouldn't expect anything. It should be totally normal. It's not. If you're wearing a bathing suit as opposed to normal clothes.
It's fucking reality.
And it's like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, because that's under the assumption that all men are rational actors that are operating with their complete facilities
and women.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I know a
yeah,
shit ton of
but
girls
just,
that would be like, ow.
Right, yeah. But I'm just saying of like, that kind of thing is that like, and then there are a lot of men who it's not to excuse their actions, but like there's men who have people who have lower IQs and higher IQs, and people who have different forms of how the amount of hormones and how they're able to control themselves, and some guys are just pieces of shit, and other guys aren't pieces of shit.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. So then that's a transition to segue into next week when hopefully Melinda will have seen Blade Runner Part 2, and we can talk.
Also,
about
we're talking.
segue.
I have an animated short we want to show. I'm going to show it on one of
show stuff.
We're almost done.
We'll
show
show
some
stuff.
cool shit.
Yeah.
We'll launch it there.
If you have suggestions, you can email us or tweet us. Email is info@oldfashionedhollywoodpodcast.com.
As of today, we have that.
As of
or this will play.
This will play.
When will this play?
In the past, I don't know.
This play like 2019.
Yeah.
2049.
2049. When Blade Runner becomes real. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get the by now, when this is playing, we'll have Old Fashioned Hollywood Podcast on Twitter.
Well, I'll be
stuff
dead,
like that. Yeah.
You guys
And she'll be Snapchatting. Is that a thing? Do you do the Snapchatting?
Once in a while, but I still when I message people, I'll send them something like a response, and then when I get it back, I don't even remember what the fuck we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because I don't usually check it like every day.
I need to have somebody show me exactly. I have to have somebody show me like how the Snapchat's supposed to work.
It's our podcast, Linda. Try to keep up.
Transition. I don't think I'm gonna be here for the next one.
Look at our computer. Just says transition
On
90 times in a row.
That's all I gotta do.
Segue.
Transition.
And crust us all.